And actually, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Like all families, we have arguments every now and then, but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard. We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think.
Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often they will be difficult stories, stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in the home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
You're at GB News. Good evening. The top story tonight. The government says it remains committed to supporting the Police Service of Northern Ireland following the data leak containing the personal details of police officers and staff. The Northern Ireland Secretary Chris Heaton-Harris said there'd be specialist support as well as proportionate action to protect police, staff and their families. Well, earlier at a news conference this afternoon, the Chief Constable Simon Byrne said police are now operating under the assumption that the data will be used to generate fear and uncertainty, confirming that the leaked data is now in the hands of dissident Republicans.
We are now confident that the workforce data set is in the hands of dissident Republicans, and it's therefore a planning assumption that they will use this list to generate fear and uncertainty, as well as intimidating or targeting officers and staff. I won't go into detail for operational reasons, but we are working round the clock to assess this risk and take measures to mitigate it.
Well, here in London, 2 men have been stabbed in what police are treating as a homophobic attack outside a nightclub in southwest London. The 2 men were targeted while standing outside the venue on Clapham High Street last night. Both were treated in hospital and both discharged. Police are still searching for the suspect. The London Mayor, Sadiq Khan, says the incident was abhorrent and there's no place for hate crime in the capital. A construction worker has died after being injured at Everton's new football stadium being built in Liverpool. Police said the 26-year-old man died in hospital earlier following the incident at the construction site itself at Bramley Moor Dock. The stadium's contractor says all work has been suspended until further notice. Everton said everybody at the club was heartbroken. The government says it's trying to clarify when officials were made aware of the Legionella concerns on board the Bibby Stockholm accommodation barge. It's after Dorset Council said Home Office contractors were told traces of the bacteria were detected on the day asylum seekers boarded the barge. All 39 migrants were removed from the vessel on Friday. Downing Street says it expects them to return to the boat as soon as possible. Bidders for high street retailer Wilko have been given until Wednesday to put forward offers to buy the firm. The general goods chain fell into administration last week, putting the future of its 400 stores and around 12,000 jobs at risk. It's understood administrators from PwC have set the deadline to try to secure a deal in a bid to prevent redundancies. And lastly, Network Rail has released video of dangerous behaviour at railway level crossings. If you're watching on TV, take a look at this CCTV compilation showing one person doing press-ups on the lines, dog walkers sitting their pets on the tracks for photographs, and children putting stones on the railway tracks. Nearly 50 cases of misuse were reported by train drivers, all caught on camera in Worcestershire and the West Midlands so far this year. Network Rail says it's trying to raise awareness and discourage people from risking their lives on the lines. You're with GB News across the UK, on your TV, in your car, on your digital radio and on your smart speaker by saying play GB News. This is Britain's news channel.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Andrew Doyle, and joining me to have a good old rummage through Tuesday's newspapers are comedic news hounds Josh Howie and Leo Kearse. How are you both doing? Good. Do you like my tie? Louis Schaefer gave me this tie, and I felt I had to wear it. Otherwise, he'd get upset.
So you're at least the third owner of that tie, then?
Yeah, that's exactly how it works.
And are you wearing the underpants I gave you?
I am. They're a bit uncomfortable. We'll talk about that later.
Good. They are new.
I don't believe you.
Point that out.
We're going to move on and have a look at the front covers of tomorrow's newspapers. The Daily Mail is leading with parents told to get a grip on TikTok yobs. The Times has EU rejects new deal for return of migrants. The Eye is leading with 7% boost to state pensions. Financial Times has Saudi Arabia and UAE boo NVIDIA chips. What does that mean? To power AI drive. And The Guardian has dissident Republicans have data from PSNI leak, says police chief. The Daily Star is running with pic that confirms that big cats are roaming the UK. Scary stuff. Those were your front pages. So we're going to kick off with Tuesday's Times. Josh, what are they leading with?
Well, they have first of all, they've got a nice picture. I don't really know much about football, but they've got a picture. There's a big England match coming up, so they've got some of the wags on the front there.
That's nice.
Sweet.
Good, yeah.
Of them. And but the big story is EU rejects new deal for return of migrants.
What are the EU doing now, Josh?
OK, basically, they had a meeting, the government, and what they wanted to say was anybody who'd claimed asylum within a European country before coming over to the UK, we should be able to send them back.
Right.
And essentially, the EU is saying no, but it seems like it's like a rejection. But actually, the real issue is that there are internal issues within the EU where they're already having problems internally because they're trying to they can't make a deal with us until they've sorted out their own thing, and it's all about spreading the pain.
So it's not a curmudgeonly kind of thing because we left.
Even though we'd like to think that. Like, we could go, they're being, but actually the reality is they're not in a position to negotiate because they can't even sort their own...
Is that true, Leo? Do you think they could... They're in no position to help?
Well, the EU are having lots of pushback from all their member states because they've got this thing where each state in the EU has to take 30,000 migrants, and if they don't, they've got to pay £20,000 each, which actually, considering the cost, it seems like an incredible bargain for us. I mean, I wish we could get into that deal. But I mean, there's huge pushback from countries like Hungary, which they've decided to keep their culture and everything, and preserve it instead of just open it up to this. At the moment, EU politicians, like politicians across the West, they don't seem to see themselves as politicians of countries. They're politicians of economies. So if it's good for the economy, if you can bring in low-skilled workers, they see it as good.
When it comes to the small boats crisis, though, isn't this really a matter between England and France, or the UK and France, rather than bringing the EU into it? Because according to this article, Macron is saying he's repeatedly rejected a bilateral returns agreement. He insists Britain must address the issue at EU level. He's almost saying, just go to daddy.
No, he's absolutely passing the buck.
Yeah,
Of course he doesn't deal with it. Now, we do have our own individual deals with France. I'm going to be talking about one of those stories later.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is absolutely him just being like, no, I don't want to deal with it. It's
always been a bit like that, a bit truculent.
Yeah, I mean, and the problem starts at the EU's borders. I mean, it starts further back than that, but I mean, if the EU could control, exercise more control when people come into the EU, then, and slow them down as they come across.
Is there anything else on the front cover of the Times that we should be talking about?
Yes, top universities give more clearing spaces to foreign students. So look, we kind of dealt with the story about a month or two ago.
Yeah.
That there are less spaces now for British students. Now we've got clearing because of A-level results coming out and whatnot. And it's actually the discrepancy of spaces in certain universities, like University of Glasgow, there are 4 courses available for British school leavers, whereas they have 655 international students.
Yeah, but this is about money.
Of course,
because international students pay more.
They pay, I think, triple the amount.
They do, and the universities are desperate for money. They're always scrabbling for money.
And also, students should love this because they're the most sort of woke, hey, yeah, we should have open borders. It's like, yeah, all right, we'll have open borders, and you can't go to university.
In fact,
because
they should reject university places and say, no, I demand you give them to a foreign student.
They've got no choice because this is a double whammy because, of course, this is the first year where they're actually having to work for their grades.
No, this is, you're being flippant, but it's true. But I mean, this year, because the teachers were marking their own A-level students' grades during the pandemic, and so they overly inflated it, and all these people got amazing results and got to go to the universities they wanted to. And now, because, they're being marked properly, 1 in 5 are not going to get their first choice. Yeah. So you've got this joint thing of there's very few places because they're all going to the foreign students. At the same time, fewer people are getting the places they want.
Yeah.
Bit of a mess.
Yeah. University's rubbish anyway, though. So
yeah, don't bother.
Yeah.
Apprenticeships all the way. All right, I wish I'd have done that. Anyway, we're going to move on.
I can't imagine. What apprenticeship would you have done?
I would have been a great...
Woodwork.
Carpenter.
Yeah, I can see.
It's good enough for Jesus. OK.
I wouldn't know.
We're going to go on to the Mail. Leo, what's the Mail running with?
So parents are told to get a grip on TikTok yobs, as the police leader says that families have a responsibility for tearaways who caused chaos on Oxford Street.
So this is this trend they've got of basically saying, let's go and raid JD Sports, and then everyone, like sheep, herds to necessarily...
And when she says that families have a responsibility, what she means is mothers.
Yeah.
Because I don't think many of those kids know who their father is.
Right,
so,
well, this is the thing. It's not really fair, is it, to say to blame the parents? Ultimately, these kids have to take some responsibility, don't they?
No, you absolutely can blame the parents.
Can you?
Absolutely can blame
You will
the
eat
parents.
those words when your children start going
No,
to TikTok
I will not.
pages.
No, I will absolutely not, because the phone will come off, and if they're living in your house, you have control over your Wi-Fi router, various other things. Who pays the mobile phone bill? They have to sort themselves out. Now, of course, there's an argument that you maybe don't know what your kids are up to, but then that is part of your responsibility. I'm not a perfect parent, and I know, and 2 of my kids have got phones now, and I'm definitely not as on it as I should be. But if they went and did something, I would take responsibility.
It is a difficult balance, isn't it, Josh? Because when they reach that sort of age, 15, 16, they do need some privacy.
Yeah.
There is a balance.
And also they'll get round it, like we did when we were kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, not with phones, but with whatever, I had my own wheel.
Yeah.
There was other technologies back then.
But the other issue about this, what troubles me about all this kind of stuff, it's not kids... meeting up to do, I don't know, dancing or something. It's not a trend like that.
Look at you with your childhood.
Yeah.
can't even imagine what it was like to have friends.
We used to gather in the woods and dance.
Guys.
Around a toadstool.
As you were reading poetry to each other.
Exactly. We were pretty hardcore. But the thing about this is they're gathering to commit crime. And you've seen it with, like, that Mizzy guy, breaking into people's houses and filming. There seems to be this propensity to, break the law.
You know who Mizzy's best friend is?
Nick Dixon.
Nick Dixon.
I know.
It's not just crime though. Some of the other TikTok sort of trends include in Southampton, teenagers were taking paracetamol over the weekend in a social media challenge to see who could stay in hospital the longest. Obviously not knowing that paracetamol is actually an analgesic, so reduces symptoms. They'll be out of hospital sooner.
Okay.
Also, and it's Southampton. They could have got heroin easy.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a bit Darwinism going on there.
Okay, we're going to move on to the front cover of the Mirror. Josh, what are they leading with? Pretty depressing story.
It is depressing, but I'm glad that we're covering it. Another day, another attack. This is another pit bull attack. A 5-year-old girl. The photo on the front is horrible enough. There's photos online of the actual wound. And this is just, it's getting out of, I would say it's getting out of control. It's got out of control. It's been out of control for years. There's no need for these dogs to exist.
So what is the point? Was this a family pet?
No, it was not a family pet. This was a girl walking down with her parents, patting a dog outside of a shop.
So you have these the problem is when you have these dangerous dogs, and there's sort of a list of the dogs that have this tendency towards this kind of thing. But even within those breeds, most of them don't. It's just some of them do. If they're not correctly socialised.
You don't know till one of them eats a toddler. If they're going to eat a toddler.
That's true. But what I'm saying is it as simple as just saying people can't have those animals?
What about if they were muzzled? If they had to be muzzled, and if one's not muzzled, it gets taken into doggy daycare.
I think they should be banned outright. I just think they should all be banned.
OK, well, we're going to move on to the front cover of the Daily Star.
All dogs.
Banning dogs. I just don't know how you do that.
Get gerbils.
Apart from Shih Tzus.
Hand in your dog, you get a free gerbil.
I was bitten by a gerbil once. I don't think that's very funny. Right, we're going to move on to the Daily Star. It was horrible. On the finger. OK. Daily Star, what are they leading with?
So they have from dogs to cats. It's the photograph that confirms that big cats are roaming the UK, and it's a photograph of a black panther apparently taken in Smallthorne in Staffordshire, and yeah, I mean, it definitely looks like a black panther, and people are worried that, you know, this means that we've got dangerous cats roaming the countryside, but that just seems to be racially profiling it. Just because it's a black panther doesn't mean that it's going to be a higher propensity of eating sheep.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that. But is this just rewilding? Is that what's going on here?
I think we should ban all cats.
Oh, for goodness sake.
I'm going to go cats and dogs.
How did this thing get there? Can someone explain that to me?
So you have private collectors who have...
You've not seen, what's the Netflix show?
Tiger King.
Tiger King.
Yeah, that's America, isn't it?
Yeah, but you know how we import all that stuff.
Because there have been myths about sort of huge beasts, feline beasts, wandering the countryside for decades and even centuries. So maybe they've just always been here and they're just a bit cagey and they sort of keep themselves
maybe that's a sign that we should just leave them alone then, because they haven't obviously... If they've been unknown or unseen for decades, then they're not harming anyone.
I mean, it'd be pretty scary running into something like that in the middle of Hertfordshire or something, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It'd be pretty scary being in Hertfordshire.
Well, that's where I live.
Oh, sorry.
Right, anyway, that's all we've got time for in this section. But come back in a few minutes. We're going to be talking about immigration, more immigration, and rejoining the EU. We're going to keep this civil, mostly. See you in a minute.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, no, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel, sort of find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
Is the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching. Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Tuesday's newspapers. I'm Andrew Doyle. There are two other comedians here, Josh Howie and Leo Kerr. So we're going to start this section with The Guardian now, and the biggest critics of the Tories dealing with migrants is the Tories.
Indeed. Secretive and evasive. Patel criticises plan to house asylum seekers at Essex RAF base. That also just happens to be near her constituency.
Is that right?
I don't know if she'd be going all out like this. Basically, she tweeted a letter that she'd sent to the government saying, you know, could you give me some information here?
Yes.
This has been part of their plans for a while now to use this base, but she wants to have it sort of locked down to know how long they want to use it for and various other...
So what's the problem with it? So, you know, it's like the barge, isn't it? So basically, they're trying to reduce hotel accommodation costs.
Yes.
And they're finding other means to do so. So what's wrong with using a base?
It's near her.
Oh, I see.
Well, I don't. I mean, there's so many people: Carol Vorderman, Gary Lineker, Lily Allen, that tweet saying, "Oh, we should have open borders," blah blah blah. So why don't we put them in, build a sort of container village in their street?
In Lily Allen Street?
In Lily Allen Street.
You could probably do it in her house. It's
She's probably got a big garden. We can, like, put... I mean, I don't understand. There's so many people who say, you know, we should have open borders and contribute to this stymieing of any government attempt to deal with the issue. Like, just stick them where people say that they want them.
Yeah, but in the meantime, we are dealing with actual human beings who do need to be accommodated reasonably well in a humane way.
They'd rather... not human beings.
They'd rather be...
No, that's true.
But they'd rather be in Gary Lineker's garden.
They would. Well, it'd be a pretty nice garden, I imagine.
Is actually worse than an RAF base.
Is it?
Yeah, because you'd have to deal with him pining all day.
Yeah.
Stuff he knows very little about.
I doubt you'd see him much, to be honest.
Yeah, true.
Well, enough speculation on Gary Lineker's garden. We're going to move on to Tuesday's iNews. And Leo, when in doubt, blame France.
So France is not intercepting enough Channel small boats, Tory MPs say. And they're saying that the government could withhold cash to ensure a £500 million deal with Paris to curb crossings is providing value for money. So France is apparently now intercepting more than half of attempted Channel crossings. I didn't realise they're doing so much, because if you think about it, they don't really have... Because they've got a problem with the exact same problem as us. They've got, you know, illegal immigrants... in France.
Yeah.
So when they leave to come to the UK, they're like, well, that's solved. We don't need to house them.
This is the problem for the French, isn't it? You know, they're trying to sort of keep a check on their own borders,
Yeah.
which is quite a large border, of course.
Yeah.
And they're also trying to grab the ones that run away and bring them back. It is.
So they're only grabbing them because we paid them. We paid them £500 million to do it. But yeah, apparently they could be doing more.
Well, do you think they could be doing more, Josh?
Well, they arguably, yes, but it sounds like we're getting some value for money there, but we're not, because, it's 53% that they're getting, but that's only actually up 10% since we've been giving them this money. So the real thing here is whether this it's actually €500 million, which the exchange rate now is about £500 million.
Right.
So, but yes, we're not getting value
But
for money.
why is this not the French responsibility anyway? Because the people traffickers are criminals and they are operating within
there
France.
There are shootings going on there. Belgium, they've managed to stop all of their small boats.
If there are criminal gangs going on in any particular country, it's that country's responsibility.
Yeah, but regardless of responsibility, you've got to look at incentives, and France has no real incentive to keep these people in France.
No, there is that. OK, well, we're going to move on to The Express now, Josh. This is The Express, but a headline that looks a bit like The Guardian.
Yeah, majority of voters demand a second Brexit referendum within the next decade in a new poll. So 46% people want a vote on rejoining the EU within the next 10 years, and 72% say the government's handling Brexit very badly. We knew that anyway. What's quite interesting about this, there's a few things. One is that there isn't this demand for it now.
Yes.
So it seems like in 10 years' time, either when this country has sorted itself out or things are so desperate, we'll just be like, beg us, please let us back in. That's when people want it to happen on both sides.
I don't think that's unreasonable. I mean, if some time has passed and that people want to have another referendum, I would support that. And if they voted to go back in, I'd support that too. You know, if you're a Democrat, that's what you do. But the thing about this is I don't think that would happen. I think because I don't think the good thing about this is you would have, like we did last time, months of debate about it. And when you actually debate the issues, it's unlikely that anyone's going to want to join the EU, I think.
Yeah,
go on.
And actually, if you look at these numbers, so they say a majority of voters, this is 46%. It just shows that Remainers still don't know what a majority is. 46% is not more than half
the people who...
I think what they're saying is there's more than the ones that voted the other way.
But also,
there's a lot abstained, I think, is the issue.
But also, so 46% of people want another referendum. So that's obviously, you know, going to include some people who would vote the same way again. But they lost by 52 to 48. So they've actually, their numbers are going down on the Remain side. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I suppose if you look at it that way, it will be interesting to see if this does go anywhere. But like I've always said, I think we need longer to work out whether it was beneficial or not.
And also for the toxicity surrounding the debate.
It's still here.
It is still. Well, this is the other thing, is 18% of people in February thought that only 18% thought that Brexit was done. It's like, Brexit's done. Can we just... But no, it's not
done. It's not done properly.
I'm shocked at the toxicity still going on. I'm absolutely amazed. I told a joke, a pro-Brexit joke in a comedy... I know they hated me for it. I was like, it's been 7 years, guys. Surely now we can joke about it. No, but apparently not. OK, we're going to move on now to... Maybe it just wasn't very funny. We're moving on now to this next story. Forget Musk versus Zuckerberg. The big fight this season, Leo, is Starmer versus Khan.
I'd pay to watch that. So Starmer is clashing with Sadiq Khan over ULEZ. So Sir Keir Starmer has criticised Sadiq Khan's ultra-low emission zone for disproportionately hitting people during the cost of living crisis. And we saw this become a political hot potato for Labour because the by-election in Uxbridge, which they were expected to just walk. They thought, you know, there's no way it's Boris Johnson's old seat. Labour will definitely take it back. There's this big swing towards Labour. And in fact, the Tories held on to it.
So
and it's
do you
because...
think that's why he's going after Khan now?
Yeah, so now he's seen people don't like ULEZ. And ULEZ is, I mean, it makes sense in the centre of London where there's actual pollution and stuff. But then to take it out to these leafy suburbs where there isn't the public transport infrastructure and people need their cars, it's ridiculous. It's just a tax on people. And also Sadiq Khan says, oh, but the air is so deadly. It's killing people. It's like, well, why would you let people pay £12.50 to pollute it then? That doesn't, like, you either ban it if it's so deadly or allow it if it's not deadly.
Why does he keep winning? I don't understand, because he has such unpopular policies.
Well, it's London, it's Labour, whatever. I mean, to be fair, there was a huge swing towards Labour in that seat. They only lost by 450 votes, down from a majority of 7,000.
But they wanted it. They expected it.
They were expecting more. They still said, I mean, anyway, look, the thing is, this is a really interesting time because we're going into election season soonish. This is the one time where our politicians have to listen to us, including Labour, and it's a powerful time for to be in a democracy. And this is one thing that Labour have realised that is unpopular, but it's also everybody, as Keir Starmer says, everybody wants clean air. No one's fighting for dirty air, but how it happens,
I like dirty air.
That's where we can start discussing it. I'll do a little fart in the interval.
Oh, how pleasant. OK, right, we're going to move on to this story before we go to the break. This is The Guardian. Josh, it looks like people will do anything to keep the Just Stop Oil people at home.
Indeed, I know. UK homes install record number of solar panels and heat pumps. So hopefully now they'll be able to then drive to work unmolested or whatever. There's 17,000 households every month installing solar panels. Heat pumps went up to 3,000, even though that's actually going to be way off the target. If it stays, the problem with heat pumps, apart from whether some people agree with whether they work or not, even I've got a friend and it does kind of work, but the problem is we just don't have the people there to install them.
Aren't they really expensive?
And they're expensive as well. But there are subsidies, but even
and
with
they're not very good either.
Well, yeah, that's the problem.
So you have to put like a whole field full of solar panels to power a calculator.
It's just where we don't have the discrepancy of temperatures to make them work as efficient as they would. But the most interesting thing I think in this article is that the stuff that the renewable energy that's been in private homes at the moment is 4 gigawatts, which is actually the same as what the nuclear power plant that's under construction. So it is a significant amount of power is being generated.
Is that what's happening? And Leo, are people becoming more green?
I don't know if it's green or a desire to get off the grid and not be dependent on companies. And we've seen how companies can cut off your access to social media or your access to banking. So, I mean, the next thing is going to be access to utilities such as electricity. So if you're generating your own electricity at home, and solar panels, you know, for all that I love fossil fuels, I also love solar panels. They're becoming more and more efficient every year. They're more efficient than plants at photosynthesis now. So, yeah, by using solar panels, even in a rain-soaked country like England.
It could be true, isn't it? People are like, if it happens with the banks, why couldn't they go after any other company? Why couldn't any other company become ideologically captured?
Yeah, so if you can make your own electricity and keep it in jars at home, then you don't need the big, you don't need big electric.
I'm using bicycles and the kids.
Are you? OK, well, we're going to have another breather now, but come back for brain drains, NHS pronoun pains, and American football refrains. See you then.
That warm feeling inside. From boxed boilers. Proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, it's Aidan McGibbon here from the Met Office with the GB News forecast. Rain today, clearing overnight, a few showers following, but many places will be fine during Tuesday as low pressure moves into the North Sea, taking its weather fronts with it. However, one occluded feature is just providing some additional rainfall to the northeast of England through the night, some damp weather continuing here. Eventually it becomes light to moderate rain. Showers across western areas, drier towards the southeast with some clear spells, but wherever you are, it's not going to be a cold night, 12 to 14 Celsius generally. And it will be a bright start to Tuesday, certainly across southern areas compared with Monday. Plenty of sunshine around. Still the remnants of the cloud and rain clearing from the northeast of England, southeast Scotland first thing, but by mid-morning that's all gone. And then the showers in the west tend to transfer eastwards through the day. The heaviest downpours will be across the central belt and the southern uplands, but elsewhere actually the showers becoming more scattered into the afternoon. A better chance of some sunshine in the south and with light winds feeling much more pleasant. Then we start off Wednesday with a few fog patches in the south and the west, a lot of cloud for Scotland and northeast England, and further showers develop, but most of these showers will be in the north, especially for Scotland, drier towards the south, and this drying up trend continues into Thursday and the start of Friday with rising temperatures.
That warm feeling inside. From boxed boilers. Proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening, from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the Live Desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Co, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not
believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Like all families, we have arguments every now and then, but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard. We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think.
Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often there will be difficult stories, stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in the home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Tuesday's newspapers. Straight back in with The Guardian now, where the pillage of Africa continues.
Yeah, and this time instead of resources, it's people. So there won't be enough people left. It says in quotation marks, Africa struggles to stop the brain drain of doctors and nurses. So the exodus of healthcare workers from Nigeria, Ghana and Zimbabwe continues despite this World Health Organization red list and a range of laws to keep them at home.
Well, they need them there more than anywhere else, right?
Exactly, yeah, and it's really affecting them. So even in a rich country like Nigeria, I mean, I can understand Zimbabwe, people are leaving, the nurses get paid £120 a month there, so, you know, to come to Europe or to Britain, it's very attractive. But Nigeria is a rich country, and it's left with one nurse to 1,160 patients. I mean, to put that in perspective, in the NHS, there's one nurse to 1,150 patients.
Okay.
So
yeah,
it's much worse.
What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, it's a problem, and the
seems unsolvable. Actually, I don't know how you'd even begin.
Well, like I said, they're implementing laws within Africa where to ban people, like, or you have to do 5 years. Like service at home.
That's not going to do it, and you can't just make a country richer. But,
no, you can't. You can't make a country. Well, but if maybe the money that is put into those countries from abroad, like aid, maybe that could be to bolster the salaries of
specifically targeted aid relating to healthcare.
Yeah, but the fact is, we benefit from this country, and the Western countries benefit from that brain drain.
Maybe.
And it's not just nurses.
Well, no, we do though, Leo, don't we? I mean, the NHS needs to have.
Yeah, so maybe we should train doctors and nurses in this country. Radical idea, I know, but you know we could do it. But maybe we could train more. Maybe we could train enough.
Maybe pay,
and then you know, because how can Nigeria? Like, it just seems so evil. I know leftists love immigration. They think, oh, it's great, all these people coming over the border. How amazing! We'll completely erode any remnant of traditional British culture. But you know, at the same time, you're stealing the best and brightest from these countries that desperately need them.
We can't just train more if more people don't want to do it, and it is about competition as well. You know, if we paid people properly, maybe more people would want to do it. Wouldn't that be the solution, Leo? Pay nurses and doctors more than they are currently paid
in this country.
Yeah.
And then it'll become a more attractive beacon. What we need to do is we need to match Zimbabwe's salaries.
I think we can do that. OK, right, we're going to move on to the Telegraph now, Josh. It seems this ambassador likes giving out some truth bombs along with his Ferrero Rocher.
Indeed. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Britain has an obligation to help Afghan refugees, says UK's former ambassador. Now, this is Sir Laurie Bristow. He was in Kabul when it fell. It says here when it fell to the Taliban or when it was given up to the Taliban.
Yes.
Which I would still argue is Biden's most shameful moment. And he's basically saying it's not about generosity to the UK giving these places because we owe them. We have an obligation.
Well, you know, Biden didn't just give it over to the Taliban, left them loads of great weapons to use. Like, he just completely gave them an upgrade.
Yeah, which they're actually now using to invade or do incursions in Iran. Right. So it's not totally going to waste.
Yeah.
The thing about this one, Leo, I mean, it's a bit like the first Iraq war. You know, when we encourage these insurgents to support the offensive against Saddam Hussein, and then almost got to the capital and just left.
We did the same thing in Syria, and it's a pattern. I don't know why anybody would trust anything that a British or American politician says.
So Laurie Bristow, therefore, is right, isn't he? I mean, it's a bit of a no-brainer. Like, these people deserve support.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, they're victims of the bureaucratic system that just identifies people as numbers on a spreadsheet. I mean, it's ridiculous. I just feel like the government always deports the wrong people. So it's about when people were worried about Islamists coming into the country, these young Islamist men and committing terror attacks, the government was like, fine, we'll we'll deport Windrush pensioners. And it's like, no, they're one of the most loved, like immigrant communities in Britain. Are you absolutely nuts? And now we're worried about criminals coming across in small boats. They're like, brilliant, we'll deport military contractors that help the British Army. It's like, no, are you?
It has to be said that Afghans are the biggest proportion of people coming over on the small boats.
Yes, but is there a correlation between those Afghans who supported the Western incursion in?
Well, they are. Well,
are you sure about that?
Yeah, because there is no legal route for people in Afghanistan at the moment to get over here. This is their only route.
Okay,
and that's the problem.
Yeah, but the ones coming across in boats aren't all military contractors.
No, but there isn't. But there are relatives of people who are already here. There are connections.
Well, we don't know, do we? We don't know a lot.
I mean, they're ripping up the passports, so it could be anybody.
Afghanis.
Okay. Anyway, apart from being exploitative, does this Guardian story show that 0 hours contracts are racist, Leo?
So, data on insecure work in the UK shows that structural racism is in action, according to the TUC trade union. The number of black and minority ethnic workers in insecure work has more than doubled from 360,000 to about 840,000 in the last decade. However, what this shows is that we've had incredibly high levels of immigration. Immigrants usually come in either to do high skilled jobs, but a lot of them come in to do the sort of low skilled work, and that's why politicians and elites love them. It provides cheap wage.
So you're saying that this disparity,
workers,
because it's not the same when it comes to white people in insecure jobs, right? So you're saying this disparity is connected to immigration, right? But the article here in the Guardian doesn't mention that.
No, it doesn't mention it. I mean, it avoids the elephant in the room, and it's interesting that leftists like the TUC, left-wing politicians used to be against joining the EU and used to be against mass immigration because they could see how it would depress the wages for the working class people they represented.
Left-wing argument for leaving the EU.
Yeah.
Josh, the thing about, do you think that there's a point here that it is evidence of structural racism if you have a racial disparity in the outcome?
It's such a lot. I'm normally quite suspicious of the stuff, but the difference is so large.
What do you think of Leo's case that this is actually to do with immigration?
There's certainly a logic to that, but there are no facts and figures to back that up.
You think people have suddenly become incredibly racist
I'm just saying,
demoted?
There's no actual proof to them.
It is speculative.
No, but there is. I mean,
there isn't.
There is proof. We know that the immigrants. I mean, come on, you tell me that
your Uber Eats driver is not proof.
Yeah, but everybody's Uber Eats driver is.
Yeah. I mean, it's a speculation, but you can't prove the causality. That's the thing.
Well, I could have had some time.
But what I could say is that I'm mistrustful of the assumption of structural racism at every point of disparity.
No, I'm mistrustful as well. But also another part of this might be that the biggest gaps are in the south and around London, where even though I think it's 14% of the UK is BAME or whatever you want to call it now.
Yes.
Obviously, in London, that's a greater figure.
I think BAME is out now.
But now it's BME.
No, global majority.
It's global majority now.
BAME is out, but here it's BME, it says.
Then the Guardian are being racist.
Okay.
Because that's an outdated term.
Good to know.
That was ditched 4 months ago. So they shouldn't be doing it. OK, yet more intrusions on our freedoms in the name of kindness. According to the Daily Mail, Josh, what is this one? NHS.
So I just killed a fly on my forehead. I literally went...
You know what, Josh? It wasn't caught on camera. You didn't have to acknowledge it.
I felt like such a sort of hunter-gatherer moment. I was so proud of myself. And I sort of showed it. I was like, Leo, look at the fly I got.
Now people at home think there are flies in the GB News studio, and I do not...
I just thought Josh was having a hard day, smacking himself in the head.
Why does Leo think that? It doesn't make sense.
OK, enough of the fly chat. Fine. What's this about the NHS?
NHS staff face pronoun prosecutions as woke guidance says it's oppressive to use the wrong term to refer to trans or non-binary patients. Look, we have a story like this every few days.
Yeah.
The Mail, it seems like, is actually going out to actively find these stories because it's getting all these freedom of information requests from them. But the stuff that they are digging up is just mental.
I think they should put these requests in. I think we need to know what's going on in our health service.
Prosecuted for not knowing that people use little known terms like Z, Psi, Here, Co, E or whatever.
And in particular, with a health service, it's really important that biological sex is acknowledged and recognised by the staff. Surely, of all the places, can't we just let this one go?
Yeah, and the euphemisms they have for women and for women's biology are so convoluted. Like this week it was patients of childbearing potential instead of women. And everybody understands women, and obviously the NHS has to
I
treat...
don't understand women.
The NHS has to treat a lot of people who don't speak English as a first language, so they're going to look at a form and be like, people of childbearing potential, and not know what that means. Whereas women, you know, they're going to get it straight away. And some of the terms are just, you know, gloriously misogynist, like bonus hole for vagina.
I know. Isn't people of childbearing potential also really offensive? It reduces it to Handmaid's Tale.
Yes, but also the structural ridiculousness goes to where the 999, there was a story where they are like meant to request people's pronouns when they're trying to save people's lives, and then it becomes like that. Do you remember that what's it called, Police Squad sketch? Yes. Where they were like he did this and she did. You know, it's least confusion.
But why is it? I mean, I wrote a satirical thing back in 2018 where I referred to women as bipedal gestation units, and now they're doing it for real. Like this has got.
And not only that, they're enforcing that as a policy where the people who work for the NHS, if you don't follow this language,
it's bad.
You are then going to be
then you're in the realms of compelled speech, aren't you?
Absolutely. But you know who's behind all this? Women. No. Women are behind all this. Yes, they are.
Well, from my Twitter feed, I can tell you that women are very upset about this.
Yeah, that's the women who don't like it. But the people, it's people in HR departments who are all women.
Well, there's that as well. There's people call them handmaidens, don't they? Yeah. The sort of women who go along with this essentially misogynistic.
They love it.
Yeah, but they don't just go along with it. Some of them, like Leo says, are enforcing it.
Right.
Yeah, women love being subjugated.
I don't
think that's true. But you're talking about this discourse of betrayal among women.
And when we get rid of the patriarchal religious structures that oppress women, they invent new ones that oppress them.
OK, I don't like where this is going, so we're going to move on to the next story now. This is the Daily Mail again, Tuesday's Mail. This is a story for Leo, also known as Dances with Hawaiian Shirts.
So a Native American group has called on the Washington Commanders to revert to Redskins. They used to be called the Washington Redskins. They changed it to the Commanders to make it more PC. And they've launched a petition to put an end to cancel culture, saying you cannot erase history. They're called the Native American Guardian Association, or NAGA. Hope they have little red hats with NAGA.
That's
That'd be great.
So this is another one of these things where, because according to this, there was a poll, 90% of the Native American respondents just didn't want the team name to change.
Yeah.
So they changed Redskins thinking it was offensive to Native Americans. Do you know what this is? This is like Latinx, Latin with an X.
Yeah.
Very, very few Latino and Hispanic people use that. They all hate it.
It's all invented by...
It's posh white people.
Posh white women in HR departments invent this stuff.
There was another poll 5 years later where actually half of Native Americans said that they didn't like it. Now, I would argue whether there are issues with the original poll, but it also could be that was 2016 to 2020. Those are a massive...
Do you find it offensive, the idea of Redskins as a name?
As a Native American...
That's why I'm asking.
Yes, no, I wish I can't say enough about that.
Fortunately,
there's no American football team called the Foreskins.
OK, well, one more section to go. We're going to be talking about a cure for alcohol, upright sleeping, and how to sound cool. See you in 2.
The word cool come out of your mouth.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa! Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Tuesday's newspapers. We're going to kick off this section with the Times. And Josh, it does seem like you can get a jab for everything now.
Yeah, is there a cure for alcoholism? Jab may rewire brain to reduce addiction. So this is a treatment they were working out for, I think it was for Parkinson's, was it? Anyway, but they actually figured out that you can stick a needle into the brain and put a virus in the brain that has this protein, and it basically rewires your brain, because alcoholics, basically, you get that dopamine, like any addict, you get that dopamine hit, and then that rewires your brain. So this actually resets it so that...
It's not do it yourself at home with a jab in the head.
Well, no, it's worse than that, because actually the way that they figured this all out is by getting a bunch of monkeys drunk. And because they made a bunch of monkeys alcoholics and then did this stuff.
Well, I did wonder that, because it talked in this article about alcohol consumption among dependent animals.
Rhesus monkeys,
So are there lots of alcoholic monkeys?
Got them totally wasted, cocktails and whatnot, Thursday night cocktails. But it worked, and suddenly they weren't addicted to alcohol.
So do you think it's a matter of willpower, Leo, or do you think people do need medication?
Depends if you're a rhesus monkey or not.
Yeah, the monkeys clearly need medication.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather use willpower than have a scientist inject a virus containing a protein into a central region of my brain called the ventral tegmental area.
Yeah, who's going to do that?
No, I don't want that.
I like my ventral tegmental area.
Well, that's the ironic thing. You probably need a drink to be able to get the bravery to go through with it.
All right, well, we'll look at the Daily Mail now. And has Kim Jong-un found a clever way for dealing with his country's shortage of leg raisers?
So North Korea has banned women from wearing shorts after deeming them capitalist fashion. Men can still wear them then. They're socialist if you wear them and you're a man. So this is the latest enforcement of the North Korea's Rejection of Reactionary Thought and Culture Act, which is similar to an SNP bill that's going through Parliament at the moment that basically bans anything that flouts the principles of socialist etiquette. But the problem is in North Korea, they're actually having a heat wave right now, so temperatures are in excess of 30 degrees centigrade, and even though the only fat person in the country is Kim Jong-un, it's still a problem.
Careful, he'll have you disappeared for that. I mean, the thing is...
If he can catch me, I'll run up some stairs.
North Korea is nuts. I mean, Kim Jong-un is the guy who basically said, we're going to move the clocks back half an hour because Japanese stole time from us during the occupation. This place is crazy.
It is crazy, but the sad thing is that when you're there, you will get killed. Or
it's
you
terrifying.
Will get sent off for these random things. Now shorts are banned.
They've got the 3-generation rule where if you go to one of their camps, one of their prisons, so do your children and your parents and your grandparents.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
And fun enough, they've been showing pictures of like Western ripped jeans clothes, ripped for a fashion thing. I don't know, the kids do it, I don't know why. But they show that on North Korean TV saying, look at the state of the clothes in the West. They're rags, they're falling apart.
Oh, it's incredible, incredible. Anyway, we're going to continue with the Mail for more madness from East Asia. What's this, Josh?
Yeah, Japanese firm unveils a vertical pod that lets you sleep while upright.
How can you?
Well, the photo, it's called a giraffe thing, but essentially it kind of does you slot in at angles.
Yes.
So, but what this article doesn't explain, it explains like how naps are really good, and we've read many articles about that, 20-minute naps a day.
They are good.
Productivity and whatnot. What it fails to explain is why on earth would they invent something that does it upright?
I think it's a space-saving.
Well, no,
issue.
I don't really see. If you had that part of the studio, you could have a little nap there.
It's like in Ulysses when Bloom thinks he's at that graveyard and he thinks, why don't they bury people vertically? It would save all this space. Yeah. Isn't that just what's happening here? They're thinking, they're being economical.
You've got to dig a much deeper hole, so it's much more difficult.
But I do think the Japanese have it right with these pods at work, because I'd love a nap during the day.
You could curl the people up or process them into mints. But yeah, this is you shouldn't sleep standing up. No. This is why people don't do it, because the valves in your veins, you basically your legs need to be moving to pump the blood back into your body.
You need to sleep upside down, hanging from a rafter.
In one of those spinny gyroscope machines.
That's what you need. OK, we're going to move on now to this next story. Mick Lynch outs himself in the Telegraph as far from a man of the people, Leo.
Yeah, he's having an Andy Murray moment. So the RMT chief Mick Lynch admits he supports teams playing against England at the World Cup. like he's Scottish.
Why? What does he mean?
So he said, well, his ancestors are from the Republic of Ireland, so he supports them and he supports Scotland and Wales. But he says he just finds the British press too pompous when they support their national team. Obviously, anyone on the left, just only enjoys things when Britain's being hammered down. I'd be amazed if Mick Lynch would even support Britain in a war.
It's common in Scotland, though, that kind of thing, to support the team, whatever team, and Northern Ireland, same thing, to support the team that England...
My first trip to Scotland when I was 18, I went to visit a friend at uni, and it was an England-Germany football match, and everyone was... I went to the pub, everyone was supporting Germany. Yeah. I couldn't believe it, and I was like a little...
It's shocking.
And I was like... And I remember I'm very close to getting beaten up, because I was like... England lost, and I was like, we still thrashed you 2-1. I was running through Edinburgh going, 2-1. I mean, I was very lucky I didn't get bashed.
You're very lucky indeed. Yeah, you need to work on that.
Do you support England?
Well, I do now.
Well, you live here, so
my parents are mostly English, so
there's that as well. Listen, we've run out of time, unfortunately, but before we finish, let's
2-1.
Give it a rest, Josh. We're going to have a look at Tuesday's front pages again. So we have the Daily Mail here with parents told to get a grip on TikTok yobs. The Times has EU rejects new deal for return of migrants. The Eye is running with 7% boost to state pensions. The FT has some incomprehensible headline I'm not going to read. The Guardian has dissident Republicans have data from PSNI leak. And the Daily Star has something about big cats. Apologies that you couldn't see the front covers there for a technical glitch. That is all we've got time for. Thank you very much to my guests, Leo Kearse and Josh Howie. We are back tomorrow, of course, at 11 o'clock with Francis Foster and Lewis Schaefer as well, who gave me this beautiful tie. And if you're watching at 5 a.m. right now, please do stay tuned, because just after the break, it's breakfast.
The temperature's rising. Boxed Solar, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, it's Aidan McGibbon here from the Met Office with the GB News forecast. Rain today, clearing overnight, a few showers following, but many places will be fine during Tuesday as low pressure moves into the North Sea, taking its weather fronts with it. However, one occluded feature is just providing some additional rainfall to the northeast of England through the night. Some damp weather continuing here. Eventually it becomes light to moderate rain. Showers across western areas, drier towards the southeast with some clear spells, but wherever you are, it's not going to be a cold night. It's 12 to 14 Celsius generally. And it will be a bright start to Tuesday, certainly across southern areas compared with Monday. Plenty of sunshine around. Still the remnants of the cloud and rain clearing from the northeast of England, southeast Scotland first thing. But by mid-morning, that's all gone. And then the showers in the west tend to transfer eastwards through the day. The heaviest downpours will be across the central belt and the southern uplands, but elsewhere actually the showers becoming more scattered into the afternoon. A better chance of some sunshine in the south and with light winds feeling much more pleasant. Then we start off Wednesday with a few fog patches in the south and the west, a lot of cloud for Scotland and northeast England, and further showers develop. But most of these showers will be in the north, especially for Scotland, drier towards the south, and this drying up trend continues into Thursday and the start of Friday with rising temperatures.
The temperature's rising. Boxed Solar, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Monday to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, no, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good evening. Well, the government's Small Boats Week ended in